Your community station, it is 88.7 Adelaide's Coast FM. We're doing our concert of the decade this morning, all live tracks. Now, my guest this morning was born in London, grew up in Adelaide, and spent the last 40-odd years living in the USA, and in that time has become a Hall of Fame public speaker, written 3 successful motivational books, and produced 2 acclaimed documentaries on human purpose and meaning. He has a new book coming out, which I honestly think will resonate with a lot of Coast FM listeners. I know this guy pretty well, as he is my older brother. First time live in the studio with me. Welcome to Coast FM, David McNally.
Well, thank you, brother. It's wonderful to be with you. What an incredible memory we will be creating today.
Yes, yeah. I hope so. It's taken a while, hasn't it? Now, for our listeners, naturally, I know your story, but can you give our listeners a general outline of how you came to where you are and what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, of course, I was one of the original 10-pound poms, as they like to say, coming here in 1955 to Adelaide. I was 9 years of age. So grew up in Adelaide, went to primary school, high school, St. Michael's College, married my first wife, Jo Campbell, when I was 23. And then life and my career took me traveling around the world. And in that time, I got very interested in the whole field of personal growth and development and ended up making that my profession.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then that went from public speaking, wasn't it, to then the book started to happen. And I'm always interested when talking to authors over the years about their writing processes. I've spoke to some fiction writers over the time, and they say sometimes they write the ending first before they write the middle and the start. You know, what is yours, and has it become easier over time?
Well, I wouldn't say it's become easier, but what happened when I wrote my first book, and I had 2 motivations for writing my first book. One, I was already a professional speaker, and I needed to, however, build a stronger brand. And part of it at that time was definitely if you had a book, you had much more credibility. So that became a strong motivation to write the book. But the second motivation was, could I write a book? Was it possible for David McNally to write a book? So that was very, very powerful. When the book came out, which was called Even Eagles Need a Push, it was very successful. And so that gave me a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. And then because of success, I was asked to write a second book by the publisher. I wouldn't say, again, it's easier, but what you do learn is that there is a tremendous discipline to writing a book. And if you see any or know of a prolific author and they share their stories, that they say to you, you have to discipline yourself to write at a certain time every day, even when the inspiration isn't there. And I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to write my books, and I did that every day, and it was the first thing that I did. So easier, I don't know, but you develop a ritual that ends up working.
Yes, because people often say everybody's got a book in them. Do you think that's the case?
I absolutely believe everybody does have a book in them. And I feel that for people who are older, it's one of the most wonderful projects that they could embark upon, because unlike the old days when you and I were younger and we used to sit around the table and our mum and dad would tell us all the stories of our families and history and their involvement, for example, in the Second World War, the environment and the way families are, those stories are not necessarily passed on. So I recommend to any person, write your story. Tell what happened to you, and as much as you can remember about your family history and that, and document it. And the encouragement I give is, look, here's what you do, is that you write 300 words a day. That's what you do, at least 300 words a day, but 300 words a day is sufficient, because 300 words is actually 1 page of a book.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you look at 2 months, you've now written 60 pages of a book. a year, you've written 360 pages, which is damn too long, but however.
Yeah, that's right. You're well on your way. Now, your new book, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished, it's mostly aimed at the 60-plus demographic, saying that in some ways life is just beginning at this age. Was there a particular event that triggered this idea, or was it observations over time that you thought, well, there's a pattern here which needs to be discussed?
Yeah, well, this definitely was a triggering of writing the book, and it came, interestingly, out of tremendous adversity. So my first wife, Jo, my Australian wife, died at the age of 57, at the age of ovarian cancer, and then I got married again, but I was 70 when I got married. 3 years later, that wife, Cheryl, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it was kind of like a perfect storm. She got diagnosed in the middle of 2019, and then, of course, we had COVID in 2020. So what happened was that Cheryl said to me, David, don't just sit around twiddling your thumbs, which is not me anyway. She said, why don't you write another book? And I said, yes, I love that idea. But what was important to me was, what was relevant? What could I write about that was relevant? And it occurred to me that it was to take all that I'd learned about personal growth and development and focus it on aging successfully. How do we age successfully beyond the retirement days, where most of us have quite a long way to go in terms of living our lives? How do we live it fully and meaningfully? So that was the focus of the book.
Okay. It's 22 to midday, talking with my brother, David McNally, about his new book, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished. Now, your background on this book, you surveyed a lot of people in our age group, and Coast FM listeners are basically baby boomers, who you have termed elders for this book for life after retirement. Was there a similar feel in their observations, or did it vary a lot, depending on maybe their sex, ethnic origins, etc.?
There was a variability, but very common themes that came out of all of them. So one question that I asked, which was to be very real about getting older, was, what is one of the greatest challenges you face today? Well, unquestionably, for many people, health becomes a challenge. But beyond that, the very common theme was to feel a sense of purpose, to feel relevant. What do I do now? What's my next act beyond that? Because, I fulfilled a lot of my goals, maybe through my career, but now I feel like, whoa, I don't know what to do. So that was the common theme, and the other theme was very simply, it was about how aging is a matter of attitude. For example, if I say, oh my gosh, I'm old, I get a certain feeling about that, which is not a good feeling.
To be true, yes.
Well, but if I just say I am older, that gives me a different sense. Oh, that's a fact, because age is a chronological fact, but it's not an indictment.
Exactly right. Now, so why do you think many people feel lost after they retire? I've got mates who are like ships without a rudder. Can they turn that thought pattern around quickly?
Well, quickly is maybe a challenge, but they can certainly turn it around. But then they have to gain a whole new perspective of what this next phase of their life is going to be about, right? So I like to say, for example, I am no longer ambitious, but I'm passionate about living life fully. So what we've got to do is to have a shift in the way we look at the rest of our lives and realize that we're not setting massive goals any longer, but the aging process, I believe, is an inner journey. It's a journey of, you might call it a spiritual, emotional journey, whatever that might be, but it's delving into what can I still learn? right? What can I still experience? And most importantly, I think as we get older, what can I continue to contribute that has value to the community and to the world?
Yes, to everybody. Yes, we should. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. We'll give you a bit of a break. You can grab a drink. We're talking with David McNally, author and motivational speaker. Adelaide's Coast FM, this is the station you're listening to. Thank you very much. We're doing a concert show of music. Got to play some Hot August Night from Neil Diamond. 16 to midday, Steve McNally in the studio with me, my brother Dave McNally. We're talking about his latest book, If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished. Dave, your books always seem to have a certain amount of audience participation in them with questions that we should pose to ourselves. Do you find that this personal exam, so to speak, gets the message across so much better?
Yes, I do, and it's based on research, actually. So when people who reach a later stage in life, so I call that 60 plus, when they are surveyed and they're asked the question, if you had your life to live over again, what would you do differently? A very common theme they come up with is that I would have taken more time for reflection. I would have thought about my life more to see whether the choices and decisions that I was making in my life were leading me to where I wanted to go in my life. And so I truly believe that in this next phase of life, if we are to live fully, we need to be asking ourselves some very important questions and to reflect on, well, how do I want my life now to evolve? So they say that the answers to your life are within you. But sometimes we don't have the right questions to ask. So a lot of the book is asking the reader to say, now in my life, what inspires me? Who inspires me? What do I admire? Why do I admire them? And so that I can start to create a path for myself to do things that I find meaningful and fulfilling. So it's the interactive part of the book becomes very meaningful because it's what I call practical inspiration. It's not rah-rah motivation. It's this is really getting inside of me, discovering who I am, and then creating that path, as I just mentioned, to move forward.
Yeah, and I suppose after a while you can always go back on those answers that you gave to say, did I do that? Oh, I must do that. I didn't do that. I forgot about it. Yes, because you've written it down in the book.
No question. You have it is sort of your manual for life. It becomes your manual for life. But as life is ever changing and ever evolving, things shift within inside you as well. So, for example, we talked earlier that what got you up in the morning when you were in your career, what gave you a sense of purpose was your work, right? Mm-hmm. Now, other things have to get you up. But no matter how old we are, we all still need a compelling reason to get up in the morning. And if we don't have that compelling reason, rather than growing, we decline.
Yes, indeed. Finally, you write that we should strive to become a sage, S-A-G-E. Briefly, what do you mean, and is that in all of us?
Without question. And I say that because a sage is defined as a wise one. And we have accumulated over our lifetimes, which we might not acknowledge, but we've accumulated a whole lot of wisdom. And if you look at it, we've accumulated wisdom about relationships. We've accumulated wisdom about finances. We've accumulated wisdom about raising children, what it's like to be a grandparent. We all have within us a tremendous amount of wisdom. And what I believe is one of the key responsibilities of an elder is to pass on that wisdom. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, who created the world we live in, and created a better life for most of us if we're objective about it. So what are we now doing to pass on that wisdom to others so that their lives can be better?
Exactly, and hopefully we can teach them how to listen to that wisdom as well and accept it. Brother, unfortunately, we've run out a bit of time. I've just loved having a chat. It's been a long time coming.
It's been absolutely fabulous. It's just a memory that I will treasure forever.
So will I. Once again, the book is called If You're Alive, Your Mission on Earth Isn't Finished. Listeners, if you'd like to know a little bit more, the best way to go is to Dave's website. It's just www.davidmcnally.com. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.